What's up, everybody? We have Chaz, who is a heavy hitter, and he's done really well with sports cards, specifically baseball. And he's here to tell all you guys how much money he's made, how he's doing it, and all that good stuff. Introduce yourself, Chaz. Where are you from? What do you like to do on the weekends? Tell everybody.
Yeah. Thanks, Eric. It's a pleasure to be on the call. Yeah, so we live here in Johns Island, South Carolina. Closest city would be Charleston and Kiowa. If everybody's familiar, we're very close to Kiowa Island, kind of in between. As I was telling Eric earlier, we I volunteer to coach at the local school, so my weekends are kind of filled right now, getting us ready for the basketball playoffs, which is my son's part of the team as well. And then I'm also the golf coach when spring starts. So, we really do enjoy it. I wish the weather was a little bit warmer. 32 degrees is not quite what we had in mind when we moved to South Carolina.
Cool, cool. Yeah, I just speaking of golf, I just got into golf this year. Maybe you could help me because I suck. But I just golfed this weekend at the famous TPC course. You know, the one over here in Scottsdale. It's dude, the fairways are like this narrow. I don't know how the pros do it. It's impossible. And then the greens are like go at 100 miles an hour. It's like insane. It was very frustrating. I can't believe I paid $300 to get that frustrated.
That
Um,
sounds like a reasonable deal. Down here, if you try to play the ocean course, it's almost 600.
yeah, there's two TPC courses. One's called Champions. One's called Stadium. The Stadium one is the famous one with all the stadium with like that big stadium. That one's like double the price. That one's like 600 to 1,000 depending on like the time of the day, which is pretty wild. But anyways, so cool. So now let's get into sports cards. So right now we're speaking. It's January of 2024. But tell me, like, when did you get into the program? What did you do? You saw an ad, I'm assuming. Like, what do you know about sports cards going in? Did you were you skeptical of this whole thing? Were you like ready to go? Like, tell everyone what was your thought process? What was your thought process in the beginning?
Yeah, so I'll start from I'll work from past in. So basically,
Okay.
what I know of sports cards is what I did growing up, right? We collected our favorite players, and really back then in the 90s, you were looking for Hall of Famers, and I didn't understand grading and had no clue about it. We just were, if you're a Giants fan, you're trying to get Lawrence Taylor. If you're 49ers, it was Jerry Rice or Joe Montana, And my son, who's part of this with me, uh, we were he started to get into collecting, and he asked me, well, what do you have? And so we kind of went through a bunch of my old stuff, right? And I'm like, well, I don't know what it's worth, because most of that stuff was junk, but there's some Jordan sitting in there, Ricky Henderson rookies and stuff like that it kind of piqued his interest. And so we started to get into it. We went to our local card shop, started to look at cards, and we kind of bought that way. And then we bought some auctions, and this is all before the program. And so finally one day I'm sitting here and I'm going, well, geez, Chase, I think if you really want this to be a business, I think we have to automate and do stuff better, right? And we're having, because now my background is technology, so I work with a lot of automation, a lot of outsourcing, a lot of AI, and I'm sitting here going, geez, buddy, there's got to be a better way than manually going through 30 boxes of, now we call them raw cards. We were just calling them baseball cards at the time. And so, we were on Facebook or social media. We saw the ad for MLP. And I said, well, geez, you want to take a peek? He said, sure. So he fell asleep and I stayed up. I think it was a little bit later one night when the call was on, and I'm listening to it and trying to chat. And I'm like, oh, I don't know if this is real. Because in business, it didn't, the one thing I liked was you didn't say it was going to be like fast, easy money. When you hear that
Yeah,
and you're in AI, everybody's trying to tell you they're the next big
of
product,
course.
the next
Yeah,
big program, right? So a lot of the stuff I deal with are startups that tell me I have the next big thing. I need your money or your time. And so I was always skeptical. So at first we didn't do the accelerator program, right? We just did the basic program to kind of get in and learn a little bit more. And we realized, I would say within the first 3 weeks of that we wanted more, but we needed more. And then we had a conversation with John, and he said, look, I think you should look at the accelerator program, because you'll get the coaching, you'll help people help you look at the cards, and the stuff that you're lacking, it's you have the sports knowledge, you understand buy low, sell high, but you don't know which cars to really buy. You don't understand the grading as well, and you need somebody to kind of help you, because you're so busy, right? Chase works, I work, I'm on a board, an advisory board as well. And I help coach, right? My wife coaches, she
Hmm.
works. We got 2 kids, 2 dogs, so a lot of responsibility. So that's what brought us to the accelerator program, and we couldn't be happier. So I'll pause there. I don't know if you wanted me to elaborate in certain areas or if you had a follow up question to that.
No, no, that's good. So yeah, I'll piggyback off the two things you said. So number one, the whole like I'm like I don't say like, hey, you're gonna make $1 million in a month. I'm very cognizant not to do that because like just so many marketers out there tell you you're gonna make $100,000 in 3 months. I'm very like this is a predictable side income, even though you've turned it into like seems like more than a side income. But I'm very like cognizant of that. And yeah, what you said off number two, like the academy and accelerator thing, like yeah, the academy program. To be perfectly blunt with you, that program was actually built last year because we kept getting messages from people with probably who have less money than you do, but they wanted to learn from us, like college students, like Uber drivers, people like that, who just didn't have the funds, but they wanted to learn. So we created like a simple group program where you can make $500 a month, $1,000 a month. But for people like yourselves who are like make a little bit more money, have more responsibility, want it faster, want to make more money, have the means, that's the accelerator program. But yeah, so cool. That's a good beginning. And now you got into the program. So tell me, like, you got into the accelerator program, and like, I guess, tell you honest, like, what were the few of the biggest things you learned? How did the card buying go in the beginning? Go into that.
If you're enjoying the content of the video and want to learn how to make a side income with sports cards, I spent the past 3 months putting together a training to show you exactly how it's done in detail. Sports cards has allowed me to live a life beyond my wildest imagination, and I'm thankful for the hobby every single day. That is the reason I teach sports cards, and I am so passionate about it. At the end of the training, we offer a paid program where you can work closer with me. However, I don't want you joining until you've watched the free training I put together. It will show you exactly what's inside the program and how to make money with sports cards, and from there, you can make an educated decision. So if you'd like to sign up for the free training, either scan the QR code on the screen or text Eric to 631-544-7005 or click the link in the description. Just to repeat it, you can either scan the QR code or text Eric to 631-544-7005 or click the link in the description. Now let's get back to
Yeah, so again, we started buying, we thought rookies were the bee's knees, right? What we didn't know, because of course when we grew up there weren't as many variations, are the variations and the short prints, right? And so when Skylar, who's our coach, got involved with us and we went through your videos and spent the time kind of going through it, I'm like, oh, we should be putting our money here. So similar to the stock market, where you can see a lot of trends in certain stocks going up or going down. Here, I don't want to say it's an exact business, but what I have learned in the beginning was that the short prints or the autos were where there's more room for not only error, right? If you buy it at the right price. So if you get the 9, you still can have room if you buy it at the right time. But if you get that 10, well, now we're really, cooking with gas, as I like to say. So that was the biggest thing was purchasing the right card, looking at the right variations, looking at the right player at the right time, not the best player, right? Not necessarily going after Mike Trout, but maybe going after like a Luis Acuna Angel because he goes traded to the Mets. Now he's in a bigger market, and now there's more potential there than just buying, a future Hall of Famer like Mike Trout. That's the difference in the mentality when you grew up in the 90s as it was, I'm targeting Hall of Famers. Here, you're targeting we're learning to target the next big thing specifically. We're focused on baseball right now. Football will be focused on after the Super Bowl. But that's the biggest thing. And then the second biggest thing, and I'm going to wrap 2 things into one, which is the coaching and then the all-in-one program with Matt. It's really, now that we know the right cards to purchase, now I have an extra layer of protection with my coach Skylar, and then an additional layer of protection with Matt, because now there's 3 sets of eyes looking at these cards that we're paying more money for to ensure we're getting the best grade possible. Now, sometimes I just make the decision to take a chance because I know the margin is there. But those are the two biggest things. And the third thing that we're looking forward to, because you're talking about existing, and then when I look at the future of the business, is now that I'm learning what cards to buy and I have those layers, when we're at the point to where we can then outsource some of this, people looking, I'm more confident that that process can work and that the people that, you'll have trained for us or I'll help train or however that works. That to me is when this goes from just being a side hustle for us to probably being on par with some of the stuff that I do for my salary, my regular job.
Yeah. You said it right 100%. You're doing it the complete correct way. Like you can't, even though like we give you the card finders and we train them, the people that find the cards for you that who's listening that don't know. Like it's still an employee of yours and you have to know what you're doing. And I tell people that all the time, like make the money yourself first, learn the process, and then you could outsource it. Sometimes people like to go a little bit too quick. Yeah, that's good, 100%. So next up, so let's get into card buying. So like, what cards have you been buying? Like, how much money do you think you're gonna make, or have you made? What was your thought process behind buying these cards? Tell me like the biggest card you bought. Go into that.
Yeah, so initially before the program, we were, like I said, we were going after all these rookies and we would spend 5 to whatever number based on what we thought it was, right? With the program, we really kind of focus in on certain, I call them levels. I use different terminology. So if it's the right short print, if the card looks good, if it passes through Skylar, I don't mind going a little bit below 50 for some of this stuff that I know I can flip. And that's kind of what just pays for everything else, right? If I can grade it for 19, I buy it for under 50, I sell it for 125 on a buy it now or an auction, I'm good, right? There's a lot of those Acuñas that are out there that are still clean. There's Jordan Walkers. There's a few players like that the value is kind of holding. But if I look at what we have that's exciting is a lot of the buzz around Jackson Holiday, Churio, and guys of that nature. I look at Churio because he signed a contract bigger than Acuña, and if he just starts in the first 3 weeks, we will more than triple our investment on his cards. I've already sold. I followed the program. I took it to a card show. I all in. I was 289 cash money on the table. Guy gave me $700 for a 10 out of 10, and that was SGC. That wasn't even the PSA
Jesus
10.
Christ. That's crazy.
And what I do is I go to specific areas of in my region. So I'm in the Carolinas where there are AAA teams, and they watch these guys come up, and when they pop, boom. So I'm a guy that'll invest a little bit more in Tamar Johnson. Why? Because he played minor league ball at 2 of the biggest shows I go to all year, right? Right, we're up there in North Carolina, and they'll pay top dollar. So the largest raw card I think we invested was probably just close to $800, but it was a 1 of 5 red Jackson Churio. And I haven't gotten it back yet. But to equivocate that, the Ellie, same card, same type of thing, just different year, different player. Last sold, I think, for $19,995. I will be all in with grading, taxes, shipping for $850. If it's a 10, I'm going to ask that number. If it's a 9, slightly less. It's still first on print. And so I really focused for March and April, Jackson Churio, Jackson Holiday. I've got all sorts of different variations for them, short prints. But I try to stay within that 50 to 150 range for I call it my base, right, to generate revenue, and then I'll go up if I see the right card. Depending on, we also have the tool, as you know, too, where I think Chad created it, right, where you can kind of see what the market's done, and that helped me to buy some of this stuff because I'm like, oh, worst case, the 9 went for this, and I'm only in it. I'll use the other example, Jackson Holiday. I got a 9 on his prospect auto. We were all in for like 189. We sold it for like 384. That's a huge win, right? I mean, if you can have that confidence, we have a lot more like that. I believe with our investment of about from right around when we started till today is probably around 30K between what we have with Matt, what we have here, some of the stuff that's still kind of floating out there. The projection, if the players, not if all of them hit, but if they hit like we think they will, Matt, or excuse me, Eric, like that'll be I'm thinking at least at worst case we're doubling what we invested, right? So worst case it's 60, 75K. I think with some of the higher end cards, it's 100K. Oh, and there's the little guy. I'm on call, buddy. Say hi. You can say hi. You can say
Hey, how's it
okay.
going?
So as you can see, everybody, I'm not kidding. I have a lot of responsibilities. We got birthday parties today, and the little ones are rolling in. And,
Is that the little? Is that the little one you buy cards with?
No, that's the youngest. Now he's 4, and he's like
Okay.
basically an eight-year-old clothes, so he's a giant. And then the 16-year-old, he's upstairs. But even his buddy has gotten into the business. He works at the card shop now because he's seen some of the stuff that my son Chase has done, and so he's gotten into it, and we enjoy it. And the kids love it too, right? I mean, the kids love hearing about what we do. It's creating a whole generation. So I feel like I know a lot of folks will say, "Hey, our the hobby is being changed." I actually think this program has helped and will help bring more of the young kids in. They know at card shows they're coming to me and they see the cards that I have, and they almost know that I'm part of some kind, the program, or they've seen it and they're like, "Oh, does it really work?" And I'm like, "Heck yeah, guys, it does." And they'll go out and try to replicate stuff on Whatnot and all of this. So even for those traditionalists, I would say we have the opportunity still to increase the hobby, make it profitable for everybody, make it a way for everybody to enjoy. Because kids now, they see things more in a business sense than a collecting sense. There are some that collect their favorite players, but it's blown my son's mind.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's huge. He loves it.
Yeah, it's I've always found that funny. I don't know if you probably everyone's seen all the hate I get on my Facebook ads, and one of the common comments people comment is like, "You're ruining the hobby. All you want to do is make money off of the hobby. You're not a collector." Well, if you think about it, like think about that statement for a second. So like, what is a collector? A collector is someone who buys a guy and holds him long term. He's trying to make money, right? You're not buying anyone long term unless you think he's going to go up in value, right? So it's just like stocks, right? We're day trading, right? We're making quick money and flipping, and other people invest long term. But like, no one, if you talk to a collector, no one's ever going to say like, "Yeah, I think this player sucks and he's going to go down in value." Of course not, right? Everyone is. If you're purchasing something, you're buying it with the intent to make money. If it's a sports card or a sports autograph, right? Like, it's just a different method of making money. But I guess, yeah, I mean, I've always found that to be funny. Even when I was
world's changed. Yeah, I'm sorry, Eric. I was going to say and with the way that sports has changed too, the hobby has to change. I don't want to say modernize. Traditionalists, we may not like that guys leave their team, right? And so then the things change. Maybe you're a Cowboys fan and your guy left. Now you no longer collect him. Here, I think this is a way to kind of to mirror that in a sense, right? We want to kind of take advantage of it while they're at the right place at the right time. And they're, just like you said, they're long-term investors that are going to look for that blue chip stock, and they're just going to sit on it for 10, 20, 30, and they're happy to do it. And you know what? Go for it. Because I'm all for that. There's guys that I have in my PC that I'm not going to put up for sale. But there's also a good chance that those same guys get traded or they leave in free agency. So if I'm trying to make money off them, that's not what I'm going to do.
Yeah, if you think about it, you're actually feeding the collector, right? Because think about what you're doing, right? You buy a Jackson Holiday card in November, you get it graded, you sell it in February, you make your money. But guess what? The person that's buying that Jackson Holiday card in February, he's buying it. If he's buying a PSA 10, it's probably with the intent to hold it long term because he thinks Jackson Holiday is going to be a good player, right? So I would argue we're only doing good for the hobby, right? We're just pushing and moving it forward. It's kind of like, the world is moving faster and faster with the internet. It's like the analogy you gave, like the transfer portal, college football. Like, yeah, people complain, all these guys, it's like a free agency every time the season ends. But like, now Oregon's in the Big Ten, Oregon's going to be at Ohio State next year or vice versa. That's something I want to see, right? The TV ratings are going to be through the freaking roof. I know it's not traditional, and Oregon's been in the Pac-12 their whole existence, but Wisconsin, Oregon, like USC, Michigan, it's gonna be crazy, right? It's just better for the world. It's more entertaining. Not the sports card example, but I just think people.
But it's a good example. It's
a
good analogy, right? And that's why I think what you've built and the way that we're being coached is good, right? I'm a coach by nature, so I would tell you, and I wouldn't get on this call if I thought the coaching was awful. I have an
Yeah.
honest conversation with my players and their parents. And if I'm wrong, let me know. Let's have a conversation. If I felt something was wrong or off, I wouldn't be on the call, right? I would have said, hey, let's talk about these few things first. And that's not the conversation that we had. I think that what you're presenting is what we were looking for before we knew it existed. My only wish is I wish we had started before we had collected, so I'd had more money to put in on the right stuff 8 months prior. That's
Yeah.
my thing.
That's how business always goes. Like even when I started Major League Profits, like I always said to myself, like, oh man, like I wish I invested in coaching and mentorship with like business and learning how to run a team and sales and all this stuff, but I didn't. And like back then, I said to myself when I started making a little bit of money from this, I was like, damn, I wish I started this when I was 18 and I never went to college. You always know more in the future. It's Alex Formosi. I follow him. He's a big entrepreneur. He always says people, they they go like, oh man, I should have done this 3 years ago, but you always know more in the future. And 3 years from now, you'll be saying something that, oh man, I wish I did this right now. But you just don't know what you don't know, right? So it's funny how the world works. It's like my friends who are sports betting degenerates. After Packers hit yesterday, it's like, oh man, I knew it. But you always know more in the future. But yeah, well, I appreciate your time. I'll end the recording. $30,000 into like what seems between 60 to 70 to 100,000. That's not too shabby. And do you have any last words or anything to someone that's getting into the sports card world? And don't say join Major League Profits, assume they can't afford it. Like, what would you say to someone?
I think absolutely get into it, but do your homework just like you would. We talk about it in sales. Salespeople, we're the worst. We don't hone up on our craft enough, right? If you look at every other craft in the world, they're constantly trained, whether you're an engineer, whether you're a baseball player or a professional athlete, right? You're always training. So when you're looking at this as a business, educate yourself first. It's okay to make those mistakes. Just make sure they're mistakes that you can afford to make. So if you can't afford a $50 card, don't buy it. Buy something more reasonable to see if you can get it right. And then when the time is right, this team is here. I believe their information is accurate. They're astute. My questions are answered within minutes. I would tell you different on this call and I'm not paid to be on this call either, by the way. I'm letting you all know, like, I'm serious. I'm the biggest skeptic in the world, but so far they've held their promises, and that's what matters to me. It's what I teach my kids when I coach them. It's when people buy from me in my regular business. If I overpromise and I underdeliver, I always correct it. I can tell you right now, there isn't anything here that's been overpromised. I haven't received anything that's been underdelivered. But if you can't afford the program, the best way to do it is to educate yourself. There's plenty of YouTube videos on this to understand what Eric's talking about. He kind of lets some of the cat out of the bag for you. And it's okay to test the waters and see if you like it and build the income up that way till you're at the point to where you can make the leap for the accelerator. And if you're on the fence about the accelerator program like I was, do it. It's worth the investment. I truly believe that the return will be 10 times what I invested in the accelerator program when I'm done with year one.
All right. Very well said, Chaz. I appreciate everything. I appreciate you hopping on the call.
Thanks, Eric.
The video.